We all have seen the extravagant and flamboyant Super Bowl commercials that come in to cost around $5 to sometimes even $10 million. But that's only one of the ways the NFL and the teams in the NFL make their money. They have deals from TV, merchandising, and licensing, and so much more. And if you want to learn about how this works, make sure to give this video a thumbs up or thumbs down because it's your thumb, and let's go ahead and get into it. Prior to 2015, the NFL was a nonprofit. I know, completely shocking because they make so much money. But they gave up that status because of the amount of public backlash that people were giving them because they were making billions upon hundreds of billions of dollars and still keeping a non-profit tax exemption. And since the NFL gave up their non-profit status, it is now a trade association made up and financed by the 32 teams within the NFL. 31 of those 32 teams in the NFL are privately owned by, your Jerry Jones, your Robert Kraft, those kind of people. But the one exception to that is the Green Bay Packers, as they are owned by the people of Green Bay who pay taxes on that. So Green Bay technically keeps their nonprofit status. When it comes to the NFL's revenue, since they gave up that nonprofit status, they do not have to make those records public, but it is estimated that in the 2020 season, the NFL made $12 billion. Now, that is down from the years prior to because, we went through a global pandemic and they couldn't have fans. So that was a big profit that they lost. Even though the NFL had a down year last year, it is still estimated to be revenued at $25 billion by 2027. When it comes to how that revenue is produced, the NFL and its teams agree upon two categories which the money comes from. You have the national revenue and you have the local revenue. Now, when you talk about national revenue, that is the money that is evenly split amongst all 32 teams, no matter if you played well, good, kind of, sort of, possibly made it into the playoffs. And these decisions are based upon the league, so everyone agrees to them. The biggest revenue source for the NFL is, I know, complete shocker, TV deals. That makes up more than 50% of the NFL's revenue. The NFL is the most viewed sport, and it is number 19 out of 20 on the top 20 broadcasts in the year 2019. The NFL has TV contracts with CBS, NBC, Fox, and ESPN. CBS, Fox, and NBC are all collectively paying the NFL to show their games $39.6 billion from the start of the contract in 2014 to the end of the contract in 2022. And anytime you're watching Thursday Night Football, you know that game's going to be on Fox, and that is because Fox bought the right to Thursday Night Football for $3.3 billion. And when it comes to Monday Night Football, you can always count on that being on ESPN because ESPN bought the right to that till the end of this season for $15.2 billion. The last two things that make up the national revenue in the NFL is merchandising and licensing. And Fanatics has a 10-year deal with the NFL to exclusively sell their merchandise from Nike in their online stores. And the merchandising from this makes up about 10% of the league's total revenue. The NFL had a $9.6 billion revenue last year, and since everyone gets an even amount of this, no matter how bad they played, that means that in this scenario that $296 million would have been given to all 32 teams. When you're talking about local revenue, this is the money that all 32 teams can decide the pricing on and no one has to agree. The biggest thing in this category is the ticket cost. As in 2000, the average NFL ticket cost around $30, and in 2020, the average NFL ticket cost $151. The next thing in local revenue is their corporate sponsors. Corporate sponsorships are where NFL teams make a lot of money as well because they have the ability to display these corporate logos wherever they want, may it be throughout the stadium, on a cup, on a napkin, on their jerseys. But the granddaddy of them all is to have your corporate name on the stadium. And AT&T Stadium and MetLife Stadium both were priced at $19 million. The Saints Stadium is getting a new name in the upcoming future as Caesars Entertainment has bought the naming rights away from Mercedes-Benz that decided not to keep the naming rights of the Saints Stadium. This deal is worth $10 million over 20 years, which is also $210 million. The last local revenue profit that these teams make is from their concessions. And even though you may think that the prices are high, I think the prices are high. It is one of the ways that they do make money, but it is the smallest percentage of a team's revenue. And you might be thinking why your favorite team can't afford the best free agent on the market or things like that. And that mainly boils down to that in this revenue, they have to take out their expenses. And the most expensive things for an NFL team to do is pay their players. In 2020, the Green Bay Packers had $437 million in expenses. And yes, it included the players' expenses, but that made up majority of it. And because of this and the league revenue that they made, they only came out with a 39.6 operating income, even though they had way much more revenue than that. So that's a good example of what it really takes to run an NFL franchise team. Now, since you know so much about this and the NFL, we're kicking off this season, make sure to check out the Her Sports Convo podcast channel, where I talk about all the hot topics in sports and definitely will be catching you up and giving my opinions on what's going down this 2021 NFL season. Also, since you know so much about how NFL teams make money, make sure to check out this video right here where I talk about NFL salary caps. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified every time I post a new video, which are on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Leave me a comment down below and tell me how you feel about concession prices, because I kind of think they're a little ridiculous. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up or thumbs down because it's your thumb, and remember, don't be afraid to join the convo. NFL has with networks are with the CBC.